Coming up on Telling the Odds, Rangers of the New Republic has been officially scrapped. We have a few Book of Boba Fett nuggets we're going to talk about, and the Sequel Trilogy characters could return. What time is it, 3PO?
It is time for
Telling the Odds.
Hello everyone and welcome back to yet another episode of Telling the Odds. We're back in camera, in person, in high definition.
In live action?
Yeah. No, I didn't say that the opening. That was in the...
Because we were animated the last time?
No, you still couldn't get the... I didn't even... Okay.
It's a funny idea. Come on.
Good,
I'd love to see us animated. Let's do like...
or a puppet episode where we just like on the bottom with like our hands. And,
let's totally do that, yeah.
Whole episode, that would be a bit.
It's like the entire, episode of the podcast is kind of like the holiday special, and then like halfway through we just become animated for about 15 minutes.
Exactly. And yet that's the best part of it.
It is. Welcome back, Michael. Yeah. Welcome back to everybody else. I hope you've had a good week, and I hope you enjoyed our first feature-length presentation of the podcast in this new format, because we just did the channel update the first time, and it's gone pretty well.
Yeah,
we were working out a few kinks as far as exporting it and actually editing it together with our new camera, with the new way in which we actually put it together, and how we kind of put the audio and the visuals together with our mixer and that kind of thing. But that's all housekeeping. That's not to worry about.
It will improve as we go along and get more experience with it.
Michael, you were just telling me that this week you got Jedi Fallen Order, a game you haven't played.
Yes, I've yet to play it. I'll make sure to do so. But yes, I picked that up on the Steam sale. So
awesome.
Good. I'm excited to do that because I do always love the Star Wars video games. Like I love the old LucasArts ones from the early 2000s. Some of my favorite video games.
We got to do an episode focused on that.
We do. We'll
you
make
mentioned
sure
that like months ago, and we never got around to it.
I mean, yeah, we had our long break, but we'll have to do our favorite Star Wars games ranked and explain why they're so important to us.
For sure, and it's because we've got that open world.
Yeah,
is it Ubisoft?
Ubisoft
Star Wars game coming up,
which I've heard bits about every so often, but still looks like it's a while off. But that will be maybe when there's a major trailer or something, we'll do a tying episode on that. That should be a good idea.
Yep, exactly.
But we've got lots to talk about this week. What do we got up first?
We do. So we're gonna get into a main topic a little bit later, and I imagine that it's the title of the episode itself. So stick around for that a little bit later. But first, we've got a few things to talk about. We've got a few little nuggets in regards to
quick news. It's back
into Book of Boba Fett. Nothing major, just a few little things. They released a TV spot that showed a few things, a couple of extended shots of Boba at that kind of large table that's really giving off a kind of Goodfellas underworld vibe.
The Star Wars gangster TV show.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know what? It's kind of giving me... I'm hoping that we might get to see kind of connotations and kind of bits of that cancelled 1313 show that was going to happen.
You mean it was a video game, I think.
A video game or a show?
Gosh, was there a 1313 show? I definitely know there was a video game called Star Wars 1313, which was going to be set in the Coruscant Underworld in level 1313. But I think I do remember hearing something about a TV show also around that, which was going to be like in that Coruscant Underworld vibes, which, hey, this is what it's going for. I'm very excited. The more we see of it, the more it's like kind of unexpectedly like, yeah, this does sound really interesting. I really hope it like shows like a really brutal side to Star Wars we really haven't experienced before. Like you can kind of get that really across in like these kind of crime shows, which like show like the brutal aspect of it, where no one's really a good guy. It's just like two like villains and bad guys just fighting against each other for power. Like I really like that in shows,
especially because Robert Rodriguez is helming the show. I mean that scene in
creator of Spy Kids itself doesn't give a brutal. That.
I think it was episode 6 of Mandalorian season 2 when Boba first showed up. When they go to
if you get that
when they go to Tython, those fight scenes with Boba when he's just like
brutal,
brutally
just
he's slaughtering those stormtroopers with the
stormtroopers
with the gaffy stick,
and the way the plasteel just like shatters.
There's that moment where he just bifurcates a stormtrooper's helmet, and you get a close up on it, and it's like literally been like I can't imagine what that guy's face looked like after. But if we're getting a whole show of that, that kind of dynamic in Star Wars, that just I can't.
It's very exciting,
especially because I'm a fan of gangster stories, Scorsese, Sopranos, that kind of thing. So to see that in my favorite universe and my favorite franchise is just a dream come true.
Especially that, but in like a Star Wars vibe to it. Like that's what I love about the way that you can tell these genres and types of stories, but like frame it in the Star Wars universe that it still fits. Like the Star Wars universe is so open to that like you can really do anything.
Anything can be a Star Wars
fits
story.
Inside it. You can do westerns, you can do political thrillers, you can do like espionage, you can do like epic fantasy stories. It's very wide for that, and so like a more gritty crime-based like one would be really interesting.
It's what George has always said. Anything can be a Star Wars story.
Anything can be Star Wars, yeah.
So yeah, and in that TV spot, that same TV spot that we were talking about for Boba, there was a quick shot of him kind of rejuvenating in a bacta tank, which is interesting. I mean, it asks the question, is this? I imagine this might just be like he's doing some bacta therapy or something like that in conjunction with his new place in Jabba's palace and him being kind of this leader, especially because in the trailers, if you notice, there is a little bit more definition to his face. He's got the eyebrows back. He just looks a little bit better in general, because in
the
Mando,
assumption being he only just got out of the back door when we saw him in Mando? Because that's like 5 years or something.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really know how long it's been, and that actually leads into something else.
Or the Sarlacc? I meant to say the Sarlacc,
Yeah, this actually leads into something else they've said that might answer that question. But so he's either doing this kind of bacta therapy as kind of just making himself better, and that would make sense based on the fact that he just looks a little bit better, well put together in this show. Because in Mando, he's got all those. He looks kind of. He looks kind of like burned and scarred, which is interesting.
It's a good effect, and like. Once you saw it, you're like, oh yeah, you can tell this guy like was fighting for his life inside a Sarlacc.
He was like fighting against the stomach acids inside the Sarlacc.
To be fair, it digests you over 1,000 years. So in 5, he probably only was 0.2% digested.
Oh, look at that!
Anyone can survive being 0.2%.
Tell him the odds
digested.
arithmetic with Michael Favell.
I hope that's right.
Good job. I hope it is too.
I'm in trouble if it's not.
So, and in conjunction with what you just said, how long has he been? Like, how long has he been on Tatooine waiting for someone to kind of make his armor known? Like some of those questions that we have about Boba's life, his chronology, that kind of thing. I think it was answered by Tamara Morrison himself, who said, in regards to us having questions, fan questions, big fan theories about Boba's life in general, he said there will definitely be a number of answers, some long-winded answers, some short and sharp answers, some colourful answers. We're filling a lot of gaps. So
all like answering every question without saying anything. I love it.
I mean, I hope that would be the case. I mean, there are definitely some parts of Boba's life that we haven't seen. I mean, there's that moment, there's that part in Clone Wars where he goes from,
Boba's quite heavily in Clone Wars.
There's that moment when they have the train episode with Asajj Ventress, one of my favorite episodes of later Clone Wars, when he essentially gets sold to those.
Is it called Bounty?
Bounty, yeah. He essentially gets like sold to those squid people, because Asajj Ventress kind of chains him up in that box.
In the box.
And then you don't see him again in Clone Wars. And then obviously...
that squid person was so disgusting. They were always like...
my bride, at last, It was... you know who he kind of... He reminds me of the Big Jesus.
The Big Jesus!
He kind of does.
Let's go.
So anyway, that's the last time we saw Clone Wars Boba. And the next time you see him, chronologically, would be in the original trilogy.
Yes. The canon... Semi-canon deleted scene would have featured him as well.
Yes, that's the thing.
We don't know how much of that is or still not canon.
We would have. Yeah. I mean, I would love to see that.
Most of the cancelled Clone Wars was just assumed as canon.
I'd love to see parts of that continued in this show.
Agree.
Again, I've championed him over the course of the Book of Boba Fett discussion. Not only Cad Bane, but bring Daniel Logan into the show.
Daniel Logan.
Let's see him. If you want to do some of those flashbacks, it makes sense because that's what a younger Boba would look like. Just take one look at the guy's Instagram. It's only Boba Fett, so clearly he's interested.
Yep.
It's kind of like Ray Park.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Ray Park's Instagram is all Darth Maul.
They brought Ray Park back 2 or 3 times now, like Solo, End of Clone Wars, anything else?
Ray Park.
Because Daniel Logan
he did the motion in the Clone Wars season 7 episode, The Phantom Apprentice. He did the motion capture for that fight.
Exactly. So he's been brought back twice. They brought back Daniel Logan for the Clone Wars. So hey, they've shown that they will do that. Like they'll bring back like prequel era actors who are still very interested in coming back. So that would be great if they did use Daniel Logan in some form or another, even if it is just like a voicing of the younger version of him, because it doesn't look like 12 or 14 anymore, obviously, but like he could still like, bringing him back in some fashion would just be...
I think he could pull off the age...
the work,
I think he could pull off the age that Boba's supposed to be around the time of the Clone Wars ending.
I guess it's hard because like he's only supposed to be like 30 in the original trilogy, late 30s, maybe early 40s. Whereas he does not look that. when
Yeah,
he's
I
like-
mean, I'm not sure how old Tamara Morrison is now, but
because he was supposed to be unaffected by the aging,
he doesn't. He was given no growth acceleration
Exactly.
as a clone, so he's just normal.
He was an alpha.
He aged
the,
normally.
The Omega. We learned about the
Amiga?
history. Amiga. Yeah, we learned about that in Bad Batch.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, that's Book of Boba Fett. And some of the like little bits of news that we can get into
Yeah,
there.
just little tidbits.
You did also bring up Cad Bane. I would love to see Cad Bane
Yes.
live action in the show. I hope that's something we
Very
get to
good.
see.
Because they got there's lots of history there. Unfinished business. I would say it'd be cool to bring back Aura Singh as well, but she's dead. So
She is dead, right? Yeah.
as killed by Tobias Beckett.
Yes. Oh no, the fall killed
Sorry.
her. He just pushed her.
Yep, that's fair. Got
Yeah.
me.
I'm just quoting. I'm just going off of what he said.
Exactly. When in doubt, exactly quote. That's the end.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So that's Book of Boba Fett. Now we're going to get onto our second smaller story of the day, and it concerns Rangers of the New Republic, another show that we've seen nothing of.
Kind of continuing the discussion from last week as well.
Kind of, yeah. Because I think it was a little bit further off the ground when it was plausible to have Gina Carano involved.
Yeah.
And then there was some things, maybe she'll be replaced by Harrison Dula, that kind of thing.
I feel like when it was first announced, we talked about this last week, but I feel like when it was first announced, it kind of felt like it was going to be like around the same time as Ahsoka and Mando Season 3. Like, I thought it was going to be like around about that time. Maybe I was just wrong, but I feel like I remember hearing something about that. And the fact that like Ahsoka was well on its way, like started casting. Mando Season 3 would have been like put into production like a fair bit ago. Has that already started filming, or
Has what started filming?
Mandalorian Season 3 or not?
I think I don't really know.
Maybe not. But like either way, they're on their way. The fact that this is like almost out of the way, like, it's shows that there was clearly something behind the scenes here.
But anyway, yes. So the Rangers of the New Republic is not happening.
No, yeah.
And I'm really hoping that this is going to be the sad trombone soundbite. I'm really hoping I'm right. No, that's the scary one. Hang on, we're going to try again. Nope, that's a rim shot. There we go.
Yeah,
We really got to label those
We
things.
do, and do some more Star Wars ones. But,
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's.
I'm not editing that out.
No, that was amazing. I was not ready for that. As much it does suck. It wasn't the one I was most excited for, but also I was anticipating and one was looking forward to seeing, because the New Republic.
They just don't like stories about X-Wings.
Yeah,
really.
well, that. But also, the New Republic is probably like the least explored part of the entire era in the sequel trilogy. Like, we saw it
that's really
for
true.
a single scene in Force Awakens, and then it was destroyed.
Yeah.
Theoretically. Like, that's all we saw of it so far. Pre that, we've had a couple of X-Wings show up in Resistance. Maybe I haven't seen Resistance, so they might show up more, but like, as far as like maybe there was a book, but like they've hardly appeared anywhere.
I know. All we've got from them really is Mandalorian.
Yeah, we would really like to explore more about the New Republic, and this would have been a great way to do that.
The most we got of them is either, when Trapper Wolf and the other guy, I can't remember his name, the guy with the beard, kind
Iroh.
of fly. Sorry?
Uncle Iroh in the Netflix show.
Yeah, I honestly can't remember his name.
Yeah, I don't remember his name.
Yeah, so we got that when they chased Mando, but probably the most in-depth part as to how the New Republic works is in that episode in the season 1 of Mando where they break out the Twi'lek guy with Bill Burr and
Yes, we did.
That
we learned about a little bit about the way that they're keeping criminals and whatnot.
because that's what I was thinking is that when that episode was happening, I'm like, okay, great. This is how we're going to see how the New Republic works. And I was thinking, that's what I always thought. Does the New Republic do they use soldiers? Do they use droids? When they got onto that ship, there's security droids, but there's also that human. Security guard played by Matt Lanto who has a cameo, so it's kind of like a mix of both. And I was excited to kind of get to know how they work.
Especially,
and
like,
obviously, Cara Dune becomes a marshal in season 2. So
I love the idea of learning about the political systems in Star. I mean, this again, like, prequels have lots of politics. It's bad, but like, it's interesting to learn. Like,
if it's helmed properly, it can be interesting.
Transitioning from a totalitarian, authoritarian empire that controlled everything through force, that eventually fell under it, through rebellion. Like, how seeing the New Republic after those years, like, we've heard a little bit about it. How we heard about they rapidly demilitarized the government, which meant that when the First Order came, they weren't ready. But also, they made sure that there wasn't one planet that centrally held the what's it called? The Republic. They transitioned from planet to planet so that it was kind of spread throughout the galaxy. Like, interesting things like that. It was so interesting to learn about, and this show would have been a great medium to explore that.
Yeah, well, here we go. I mean, there's a couple of quotes in conjunction to this story.
I mean, maybe it wouldn't have been any of this. It probably would have been set,
Kathleen Kennedy
in the Outer Rim also.
Yeah, that Kathleen Kennedy has sort of stepped up to the plate and said, so a third announced spin-off, Rangers of the New Republic, is not currently in active development. Some of that will figure into future episodes, I'm sure, of The Mandalorian. We'd never written any scripts or anything on that. So something like that really confuses me, because I would think that they wouldn't announce it if they weren't serious about doing it, because it sounds to me that they weren't even... It doesn't even sound to me like this was even really ever off the ground.
I guess... When they say they didn't have any scripts about it, I assume that would just mean we don't have... This episode would have this storyline. This episode would have this storyline, like things like that.
I mean, they just said that nothing was written
They
for
almost definitely would have had, like, it's going to focus on this character. They
would have written a treatment.
Their backstories. It's going to be, like, this vibe to it. Like, obviously, it was an early development. Like, they announced these way in advance. Like, we've shown that with the previous things, how they were announced. And then, like, Kenobi was announced, like, was it 3 years ago at this point?
Well, Kenobi was going to be a movie, and then it turned into a series. I think as Mandalorian was coming out for the first time. I think that's around the time that it transitioned into a show.
So ages ago, like, and we're only going to see it like next year. So they clearly announced these way in advance.
It seems to me that they, I can't help but feel that. When this all happened on the Investors' Day last year, when they announced Rangers and Rogue Squadron and the Acolyte and Ahsoka and Lando and Droid Tales and all that stuff,
I completely forgot about Lando and Droid Tales.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
I wonder if Lucasfilms forgot about them.
I don't. That's what I'm saying. Honestly, I don't enjoy.
I could just imagine the investors would be like, "All right, how's everything going? You're the department on Mandalorian. You're doing well. Okay, on track. Department in Rangers of the New Republic. Oh, we lost. What's her name? Got cancelled. All right, cancel it, get out of there. No, department on Boba Fett, looking good. Department on Lando. Shit, we forgot to hire people on Lando.
Crickets.
It's good to come out next year. Crickets. What do we do? Put in 2 minutes episode. Like,
honestly, I mean, don't hold me to this. I'd love to be wrong, but honestly, I don't think we'll ever see Lando.
You reckon?
I don't think we'll ever see Lando. I don't think we'll ever see Droid Tales. It seems to me that they'll be in a similar state as Rangers of the New Republic. That I guarantee you, not a single script has been written for any of them. I don't think a treatment's been written. That's how films and TV shows work. Before scripts are written, a treatment is kind of devised as far as what the show's going to be about, who the characters are. What is A, B, and C? What are the plot points? Also known as something the sequel trilogy didn't do.
We'll tie that down to you. We'll say in 2.5 years or 3 or 4 years time, when Lando episode 1 starts, we'll go back to this clip and we'll look very silly. But
I really hope it happens. But based on the way that they've gone about handling this show, doesn't seem like any of that's the case. But
I think for me, Lando, the biggest thing that always excited me would be the prospect of Don Glover returning. Apart from that. I don't really feel like we need more Lando.
I would want it to be between Solo and Empire. I wouldn't want it to be before, because that means we'd have to see more of L3, and I really don't like that character. So
okay, she was all right.
I just found her annoying.
I agree. And then also,
Phoebe Waller-Bridge wasn't the problem. I just didn't like the way the character was written.
I don't mind the idea that if it was set like post Return of the Jedi, or even pre-Return of like Lando's general era phase, like that's kind of interesting.
Sure,
I think Lando's really fun in Return of the Jedi, especially when he's like a war general. Like that's really cool.
Yeah,
but
let's see his
most sense to have him between Solo and 4.
Yeah, let's see his little maneuver at the Battle of Taneb. It's why not?
And I love his little outfit. He's very cool.
Yeah, his capes. Let's see his
more capes.
Slowly watch his collection of capes grow.
Exactly.
No capes.
Yeah, exactly. Again. What was this story about? They were talking about Rangers of the New Republic.
Well, they were talking about the fact that most likely some of the parts that were going to be featured in this show, or at least were ideas, because, like I said, scripts weren't written, they'll most likely be blended into some future episodes of The Mandalorian.
Which makes sense. I feel like the direction that's going, that's kind of like...
It seems to me that if they have any scrapped ideas, they're just like, put him in Mando. Well, Mando will take care of it.
Mando seems to kind of be the centerpiece of the TV direction of Lucasfilm. Like, most of the early projects were kind of spin-offs of Mando. Ahsoka's a spin-off, Book of Boba Fett's a spin-off. We assumed this was going to be a spin-off. Like, that kind of feels like it's the centerpiece. So I understand.
It's definitely the flagship of Star Wars right now.
I reckon.
Because it's the most successful project they've had since probably Return of the Jedi. Yeah. Or the most loved thing. I mean, well, people love Revenge of the Sith. But
Force Awakens made $2 billion, but
Oh, no, successful Force Awakens, of course. But as far as
universally loved.
Universally loved, and the things that people are going to go back to?
Probably since Return of the Jedi. Yeah, I reckon.
as far as how you would like to see parts of this blend
there
into
are worse
Mandalorian.
ways for it to go than like an episode feat of Mandalorian being hardly tied to the Mandalorian and mostly being set off in some Rangers of the New Republic era thing. Like, you know, that's not the worst idea. I'm trying to think if there's an example in the most recent season where we can think of something like that. Maybe like the episode we got, which was like kind of set aside from it, where Mando helped out Cara Dune and what's his name, Grief Karga, like something like that, which was not as tied to the overarching story, but it's kind of like a side adventure which could pick up the ideas they were doing. Something like that's not the worst idea.
Yeah. So, you know, if they were talking about how they would get Rangers of the New Republic, you know, blended into Mando, we've seen hints of the New Republic, X-Wing squadrons here and there. You know, we saw them appear at the end of Rick Famuyiwa's episode in Mando season 1, where they destroy that base that, you know, where they're just like, oh, it looks like they're launching a gunship. You know, Dave Filoni looks so bored in that scene. And then obviously the chase with the chase between them and Mando in episode 2 of season 2. You know, that's absolutely a part that I would absolutely love to see more of, which is why I'm bummed that it's not going to get its own show. Yeah. But if we're going to get it, we're going to see it get in, them get involved somehow in future Mando stories. That'd be awesome. You know, we're hypothetically talking about the idea that Mando season 3 could focus on them retaking Mandalore and that kind of thing. And
that's the assumption,
if somehow that becomes a larger scale conflict and the New Republic kind of gets involved somehow, kind of helps Mando and whoever's involved in that fight. Maybe we see some X-Wings flying through in that massive set piece. Who knows? Yeah. We haven't seen a final act set piece like that kind of played out in Mando yet. I mean, if you don't want to count, some of the set pieces that you see in episode 8 of seasons 1 and 2.
I feel like, each of the episodes kind of have their own major bits with like an overarching final like battle.
They definitely feel a lot smaller scale.
Yeah.
Like this would be something in, at the size of
season 1,
the invasion of Mandalore in Clone Wars season 7. Like it would feel something like that.
Yeah,
when there's troopers flying around everywhere. It would kind of
feel a bit insignificant if the massive battle of Mandalore that they building up to with like the Darksaber and everything is smaller scale than what it was in the Clone Wars. Like that would kind of feel like a missed opportunity. But something I do really want to say. You brought up X-Wings. I doubt we'd see it because it wouldn't probably been made yet. But the T-85 X-Wings, I think, are really cool designed. They showed up a little bit in Resistance, but so, because the idea being that...
Is that Poe's X-Wing?
No. So, in The Force Awakens, they use the T-75s, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
Or maybe T-70s, and there might be 75s are the ones I'm talking about. But they're more than the 65s that we see in the original trilogy. Mm-hmm. But, because in The Force Awakens, the Resistance only has, like, older tech, because there's, like, 40 years that happened. So, like, there was another X-Wing that was made after the ones we saw in the original trilogy, and then after that, they had newer ones, which were used by the Resistance, so the New Republic Navy. But the Resistance only had the older ones that were, like, newer than the original ones, but the newer ones look really cool, and it would have been fun to see like an actual like properly equipped New Republic Navy. But that's since this is only like 5 years after Return of the Jedi, we probably wouldn't see much of that. Like they'd probably still be pretty similar in looking to what we saw in the end of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. I mean, like I'm a stickler for the actual specifics as far as the ships in Star Wars goes.
Ships look so
cool. I'm definitely a nerd in that regard. So I'd love to see anything that this show would have given us show up in Mandalorian, especially because Mandalore, Din Djarin needs a new ship.
Yeah. Am I allowed to continue our parade of massively overpraising Jon Favreau? Maybe underpraising, but praising Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni?
Of course you can.
Because I really would much prefer them to handle something like bringing the New Republic in, because that was one of my biggest gripes with what's it called? Rise of Skywalker, and a little bit Force Awakens, but I think Force Awakens was actually better with this. Rise of Skywalker felt so uncreative in like the ships and what they brought in, because like the massive scene where
my god, the MC-80 shows up like 3 times.
Yeah, it's basically just reused models from what they had. Like that's one of my favorite things about the prequels is there are so many shots which last for like a couple of seconds, which show a planet we never see. Like Return of the Jedi, there's like 5 in a row, or like Attack of the Clones. There's so many shots which like showed like things in the background which are like completely new design ships, aliens, droids, all these so interesting things which show for like half a second, which get dramatically expanded upon and like people fall in love with in expanded media or video games or stuff like that. And that's what I love about Star Wars. Force Awakens actually was pretty good on this. Force Awakens has a lot of interesting things in the background. But Rise of Skywalker was so uninteresting in this. They had reused so many ship designs.
In that shot, you see
so many things.
You see the ghost twice.
Yeah, it's just... And like
the Ghost is a one-of-a-kind ship.
There was like thousands of ships in that shot.
VCX
They weren't gonna
100,
make
it was
everything new, but like
No.
it just felt so uncreative. So something like if it was done in The Mandalorian, I just know that they would actually put a lot of effort into thinking what ships make sense to actually be here.
Absolutely.
What would make sense like visually and logically in universe. So, that stuff like that I'm much more interested in. And Mandalorian so far has been pretty good on that. Yeah,
I think so too. You know, they didn't just, even with season 2, they could have just made that last ship a Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
You know, they could have just done like a very measly
they chose to use
Imperial
the
class.
Acclamator, I think it was.
Is it a Gazanti freighter?
No,
Or is it
Gazanti's like a ship one. I think it's called the Acclamator class or something.
Yeah. Well, I think we did see one of the Gazanti freighters. That was the one that Bo-Katan and him stormed
Exactly.
in the Eris episode.
Which I do like Gazantis as well. They're really cool.
Yeah, so they're obviously up on the ships that would be used at that time,
the thing is-
but they're also being creative. They're not just using the same ship over and over and over again.
There's only a limited supply of ships that actually there's a fair amount if you include Return of the Jedi's background shots, but there's only a set amount of ships that like both the Empire and the Rebels used in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And so of course that was expanded on in like Clone Wars, Rebels, expanded like background stuff like that. And I love it when the shows actually pay attention to those other things and use what makes sense in the context rather than just using what the most, casual Star Wars fans are going to immediately recognize.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes it's exciting to see new things. As much as we do love seeing, oh my gosh, that's the thing from that movie I like. Sometimes it's good to see something new or,
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think that obviously Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni will handle that to a T. I mean, because they're massive Star Wars fans and they love to see stuff that we love to see. So I think that if a similar thing were to happen like that, where we see a large variation of a bunch of different ships, I do have hope that it would be executed in a well done fashion. So,
well, I think that ties our discussion of the Rangers of the New Republic being pretty much cancelled very well. Us talking about spaceships and giant set pieces.
yeah. Okay, so that show's not happening, but I imagine that we'll see hints of it in Mando.
Yes.
That seems to be the answer to everything. They're just like, just put it in Mando if we can't do it properly.
Give it to Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. They'll probably work.
Exactly. It's kind of like, I kind of imagine like, some of the other creative heads, possibly Pablo Hidalgo and the creative team in Star Wars.
They still
Kathleen Kennedy, that kind of thing. They do a bunch of the homework. And they just pass it over to Dave and John. Like, can you finish it, please? Can you correct? Can you fix my mistakes? Can you correct my answers?
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So now we're going to get into the main topic of the day,
Topic of discussion. Yeah.
yes, and it goes back to everyone's favorite part and least controversial part of Star Wars that we all love to talk about, and that's the sequel trilogy. So basically, Kathleen Kennedy recently took to the pop culture, news zeitgeist, losing rambling words, and essentially hinted in Empire magazine that essentially after Rise of Skywalker and the rest of the sequel films, that we could possibly see more of the characters that were involved in those movies, that the sequel trilogy characters could return. And she says, more specifically, yes, certainly. Those are not characters we're going to forget. They will live on, and these are conversations that are going on with the creative team as well. So, there's a chance that these characters could return in some fashion.
I think that's fair. Like, clearly the main story that was done with the Skywalker saga is finished, but that doesn't mean the characters are. Like, after the original trilogy ended in that time, there continued to be tons of stories starring Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Leia. Like, that, I think that's a good opportunity. And the characters themselves, I don't ever think were the biggest problems with those films. Like,
no, I like what we got of the characters. It's just none of them ever felt incredibly fleshed out.
Yeah,
so
certain like a number of their stories that were like being built up may not have been completed, but I think when we frame this, I think it would be best if we talk about this, what we have and what we can expect from there rather than what we would have wanted. I think I feel like there's a good amount of we can still get from that, what we did experience and where they can go from there.
Yeah. Okay. So, I think we're both of the camp that we're not opposed to seeing more of them. I think we'd like to see these characters return in some way.
Especially certain ones.
And so, let's break it down kind of systematically, go kind of character by character if we want to go, if we want to do it like that.
Yeah.
Rey.
I feel like out of the major three that we know, or I guess four if you count, what's her name? Rose.
Yep.
Rey's the one I feel like is least necessary to see more.
Well, I would also agree. I was going to say that, it's nothing against...
as much as I wasn't a big fan of her ending story, it did kind of wrap up. Like, there's more she can go. She's clearly like a Jedi in the universe now, and there's probably still work to be done and other stories she can go on. But I feel like her general character is complete in the way that they intended, but like mostly complete.
Yeah, I'm not that interested in seeing more of Rey. I got to be honest. I mean, it's nothing against Daisy Ridley or anything. I think she's an amazing, amazing actress. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that we've seen. I think we've seen enough of Rey.
She was clearly the major focus of the trilogy. Like
you
by
could
far,
definitely-
I would assume the most screen time and everything like that.
You could definitely focus a little bit more on whether or not she like established a new Jedi Order or something
Yeah,
like that. That'd
that's
be kind
true.
of interesting. I mean, you know,
I feel like I'm more interested in seeing early days of Luke doing that, but you know.
yeah, I mean, I've as a fan, I've kind of written treatments as far as how I would handle the you know episode 9 of Star. Maybe we should talk about that one day.
We'll do it sometime. Yeah.
But it would have been my preferred ending to see, you know, possibly a time jump or something like that, where you see Rey as an established teacher of
Just see
Jedi.
a bunch of Jedi younglings running around, and one runs up to Rey and be like, "Master Skywalker, there's too many activities. What are we going to do today?"
I got a soundbite right. I don't know how you did that, Michael. That was so perfectly segued and executed. That was you could not have done that better.
Oh, it was really
that was remarkable. I got to say.
Clearly, yeah, that's what you're wanting.
No, that would be.
It works so well.
I've lost my train of thought now.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Son of a
Rey.
bitch.
Rey, end of the film. End
Master
of the film.
Skywalker. Rey, Shadow Legends.
Rey Shadow Legends.
If we were to see her, you know, training some Jedi and stuff like that, maybe see a time jump like that. I mean, that's how I would have finished the trilogy. If you wanted to do that in a show or another film or something like that, sure. I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Yeah.
But there's characters that I would rather see than Rey because we know who she is, we know who her parents are, and she's accepted herself as a Skywalker, whether you want to see that or not. You know, so you know, as limited as the parts in the middle may be, we do have a beginning and an end to this character.
I think general opinion, not opposed to her coming back. However,
No.
It's not the highest priority. I feel like if there is a story to bring these characters back, I don't feel like Rey is the one that most needs to be the focus of it. I think that's the idea.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just can't think. It was so brilliant what you did. There are too many activities. What are we going to
I
do?
just had to tie it into the quote. It's good.
Oh, God.
Should we talk about probably the second major character in the franchise?
Yes. So basically, Finn. Yeah, let's go with Finn. So Finn, I would absolutely love to see more of Finn because. I mean, John Boyega has literally said it himself.
Yeah.
He is not a fan of how Finn was not only treated, but kind of pushed to the side to focus more on, Rey and Kylo. And though they are the main characters of the movie, it doesn't mean you have to throw the other characters to the side. And that's why I think
I would say, do you want to explore Kylo more? But he's dead, so.
I would love to see more of Kylo if he wasn't dead. Exactly, that's true.
They always kill off the characters as they're redeemed because, you know, seeing consequences after their redemption is not going to be as interesting.
That's the thing. I mean, if I don't think you needed to kill Kylo at the end. I feel like you could have. I mean, you know,
we're divulging into what we thought it should have been.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's
back
what.
on focus.
I mean, it's kind of related to this topic itself. You know, seeing the sequel trilogy characters again. Finn. I would love to see more of Finn, especially because now that we have that idea that he is force sensitive.
So, fun little thing tying into that.
Yeah.
Not canon, but an interesting prospect.
Yes.
In the, here we go, Star Wars Holiday Special Lego one that came out 2020, I think.
Last year, yeah.
Featured a section where Finn was beginning to learn Jedi training
where
from
Rey was teaching him.
Which I actually really liked that idea, that section. That, maybe she hasn't started a full school yet. I mean, in grand scheme of things, she herself is still a very early Jedi.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of her personally training Finn. Like, that's an interesting dynamic, that Finn is, like, still very early in his Force. Like, I loved... That was probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite thing about Rise of Skywalker was the hinting towards Finn being a Jedi and, like, the idea of that and possible futures aspects. I really like that.
I love the concept.
Yeah. It wasn't hardly explored.
I despise how it was executed. But
what was the main? It was just like he got senses, didn't he?
It wasn't executed. I mean,
it was just like a thing. Like, here's a possibility.
Rey, I never told you. And then
Let's make another film.
He sinks into the sand, and you never and you never actually, when
Wait,
you
was that what they were implying?
you never actually hear him say to Rey whatever he wanted to tell her.
I
right?
assumed he was gonna. I assumed it was like gonna be a cringy like love confession thing,
that's what I
not
thought.
a like a Rey. I'm secretly a Jedi.
That's what I thought the first time I heard it. And then later, after Rise of Skywalker was released, JJ confirmed that he was trying to tell her that he was Force sensitive.
Okay, yeah, okay. Well, that's kind of weak then.
Yeah.
I assumed it was more like just a slight reference.
But that just goes back to how forced it was when he does that. Rey, I never told you.
How forced it was.
Okay, we're getting better at using the sound bites, aren't we?
I've learned
Yeah.
which one it is now. You're in danger.
Yeah, exactly. So as in regards to seeing more of Finn, I think that getting him, training him up with Rey is an interesting story.
Yeah, I like the dynamic.
I would actually love to see more of Finn going out into the world by himself. I would love to see a story similar to Mandalorian, obviously not in the same beats and stuff like that.
Similar to the Canto Bite section on Last Jedi.
not particularly. But I would just love to see him, because there's a part of, in Force Awakens when he says, like all the stormtroopers I was taken from a family I'll never know.
Gosh, that story arc, that would be nice to bring up.
Let's get into that. I mean, I know, finding parents and learning about it. It's been a little bit overdone in Finn, but it doesn't have to be about his parents and his family, but I would love to see a story with Finn where he kind of just, goes and tries to kind of make an identity of his own because he was a stormtrooper and then he was a rebel soldier and that's it. He's never really had a chance to live a life that's not really connected at all to war or to the resistance. So seeing him out in the world, I think that would be great. And I love John Boyega to death. So, it also depends on whether or not he'd be down for it because he's kind of been desensitized to Star Wars at this point, which makes me sad because of how massive of a Star Wars fan he was, especially in the pre-release for Force Awakens, because he's like giddy with excitement for the Force Awakens interviews and that kind of thing, and then you see him in Rise of Skywalker, and obviously he's been through the ringer. It's just like it makes me sad, but
I feel like Finn, especially in Force Awakens, was one of the most interesting characters. He was a villain turned good guy that we actually get to... Well, I mean, was he a villain? He worked for the villains, not by his choice.
Yeah.
But like an ex-stormtrooper that was like a main character. They were hinting towards Force sensitive, then they kind of pulled it back, and then they were like, actually, no, he is.
Yep.
But like the idea of him was really interesting. And I feel like in Force Awakens... Finn's character is probably one of the most. The more I go back to it, is one of the most interesting parts of that film.
Finn's my favorite part of Force Awakens.
Yeah, I agree. And so that 100% would be such would it be a great opportunity to explore more of that just really didn't happen. Even in Last Jedi, which I generally like to praise. I generally think Last Jedi continued and picked up a lot of interesting things from Force Awakens, but maybe Finn's character wasn't necessarily one of the focuses of things that they did do well. But
I mean,
certainly not the main thing they were building up with his past with the First Order and his, wanting to run away from war and then things like that. But,
Well, then, I mean, that just goes back to the fact that his character was really sidelined, to focus on other people. That's not a thing that needs to happen. You can do it all if it's helmed properly and it's executed with actual, respect and patience. Which I don't think the Rise of Skywalker was at all. I think it was, it's a very rushed story structure.
I mean, each of them have got their weaknesses, but especially Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. So that's Finn. I would absolutely. I would say. I mean, we're going to get into a few of them more.
We can
than
rank them in terms of who we would most like to see more of, and I think Finn's winning.
Finn's absolutely at the top. I would love out of all of them. I would love to see Finn.
Yeah.
Because there's an energy to that character that is hinted at. It's in spots, but you never really get to see fleshed out. Yeah. And John Boyega is an exceptional actor. And I think he would. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm sure he'd be down for it. I imagine there would be some kind of...
I think he'd be capable, 100%.
He'd be capable, I'm sure.
He could solo carry a series or a movie, 100%.
I think someone
it's more
like...
just whether he would be, interested in it. What's he moved on to? What's he doing nowadays?
Exactly. I'm sure that John Boyega would need to be, I can understandably, he would need convincing that it's going to be really about... It's going to focus on character. It's going to focus on story. Because
I feel like Star Wars... Oh, sorry, you go.
It's kind of like... there's all this hype around the fact that Andrew Garfield is coming back for No Way Home. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
I kind of really hope he doesn't because everyone would be so mad and they've convinced themselves.
Well, listen,
he's going to be in it, but I really hope he isn't. It'd be so funny.
They can't get mad at anyone if he's not.
Yeah,
because all they've told us is that he's not in the movie.
I'm happy either way because either he's not in it.
I'm sorry, we take a break from Star Wars for a minute.
Either he's in it and he's not in it. Everyone's going to be so mad and just convinced that he was, and then just like so disappointed.
Yeah.
Or he is in it and he's been lying out of his teeth for months in so many interviews.
I know.
Being like, guys, I'm not in this film
Because he's been told to lie.
At this point, I don't know how to say it any more than just I'm not in it. You're going to be so disappointed. Like he is so adamant in interviews, and it's hilarious.
Yeah. But there was that moment where also like Tobey Maguire met a fan on the street. Yeah. And he was like, "Are you in No Way Home?" And apparently all he did was smile and wink at him.
Yeah. Tobey Maguire doesn't give
a damn.
Tobey Maguire's also not really doing interviews because he hasn't been in a film in like 2 years or
no,
so.
he's...
Whereas Andrew Garfield is like still doing press for a film that he's not even in.
It honestly bums me out a lot because, and this is something in conjunction to our channel, he was recently in a film called Tick, Tick, Boom, which I saw. I loved.
I've yet to watch that.
We're going to get a review out for that soon. That's a fantastic film. I loved it. He's so good in it. And I've seen a couple of interviews for that that he's been doing for that movie. They're just asking about Spider-Man. Guys, talk to him about this fantastic film that he's in. He delivers this Oscar-worthy performance as Jonathan Larson, the creator of Rent. And he sings. He's fantastic in the movie. But all they want to talk about is, are you in No Way Home?
So funny. And it's just gonna be like, you know what? I've been in 50 interviews and never said it. But this one interview, you're right. You got me. I'm in it. I'm in the film.
Like, do they think he was just? Do they think that if they just ask him enough times, he's going to say yes?
I mean, they just want something that they can clickbait to get their title and to like get headlines.
Exactly.
But like, yeah, I understand it. It sucks.
Anyway, back to Star Wars.
What are we talking about Star Wars?
No, the reason I brought Andrew Garfield up is because that's the reason he became like he's actually kind of similar to John Boyega in Star Wars. Andrew Garfield is a massive fan of Spider-Man. You see him in the early interviews. He is over the moon. He goes to Comic-Con dressed as Spider-Man and stuff. And then in the later years, he became desensitized to the character because of the way that his movies was handled.
Yeah,
they didn't care.
Sony directed.
They didn't care about Spider-Man as a character. They wanted to focus on setting up universes and sequels and Sinister Six and all that crap, right? And that's why he understandably, got fed up with the process. And I think the only reason why, again, I think he is coming back. All right, let's just get that out of the way.
100% happening.
And I think that the only reason that they managed to convince him to do that is because I don't know, Kevin Feige would have had a sit down with him where he would just be like, "Listen, I promise you, it is character focused this time. We actually care about Peter Parker." So if someone,
Jack, who directed Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Mark Webb.
No, Sony did. So Sony board executives did.
That's absolutely true. And I mean, I would say the same for Rise of Skywalker. I don't think J.J. Abrams directed it. I don't think Chris Terrio wrote it. I think that is a movie made by committee. I think it's a movie made by the Lucasfilm executives.
Which decision will make us the most money? That one?
Yes.
Let's put that in the film. Let's do that one. Yeah.
Good idea. Good show, sir.
Good show.
Green light production.
Frankly, we've done an amazing job today.
So
they're all British.
So that's true. I think that, whether it be Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, whoever helms a future Finn project would really have to sit down with John Boyega and say, "Listen, we don't care about all that other crap.
We promised this time.
It's about you. It's about you. We really want to focus on Finn because there's a lot of untapped potential to his character. Would you be interested?" And I feel like that if they gave him a really good pitch, a talented and deeply caring actor like John Boyega and enthusiastic when he's given the right stuff to do, like John Boyega, would be so down for that. Yeah. So I think that is a fantastic idea for a story. I'd love to see more of it. I've seen a bunch of like Finn, a Star Wars story fan art over Disney Plus,
it's an interesting idea. The more I think about it, more I'd be like, yeah, that does sound like something I'm interested in.
Put a lightsaber in his hands, guys.
If you're gonna do something in the sequel era, which is like like mixed opinions or whatnot. Like, I feel like one of the best ways you could possibly do that would be with a Finn story. Like that. I feel like that would be an interesting direction to go.
I think so too.
So did you hear that, Kathleen Kennedy? We just gave you a reason why this is what you need to do.
Yes, and the way that
we were the clincher. The Telling the Odds podcast were the one convinced that the executives needed to be like, you know what? If those two boys like the idea, we're going to do it.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think so. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see more of Finn. I'd be down for it. And I think we also, I mean, you just said we're the linchpin as to how we're going to make it happen. Yep. But we've also kind of outlined how you should go about convincing someone like John Boyega to do it. So
hire us to be the ones to convince him.
Exactly. You don't have to hire us to write the story. You just need to. You can
fly us over to Britain or whatever he lives.
Get us to convince the guy to do it. Yeah. We could
bring out our fake British accents. We'll convince him he's one of us.
We could convince Harrison to do Han Solo again. I bet we could.
I don't know if we could do that.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible on the Telling the Odds podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Ray. That's Finn. Let's talk about Mr. Poe Dameron.
Poe.
you want to see more of Poe, Michael?
That's a good question. I really like Poe, but do we need to see more of him?
I like Poe in Force Awakens.
Yeah, he's definitely best in Force Awakens.
I mean,
I don't. Hot take, best idea. I want I want Finn and Poe show.
That is something I was going to come into right as we talked about Poe.
You know about it.
You skip to that part,
skipped
Michael.
to it,
But
sorry.
I'm glad you did, because let's just get into it now.
Like, I mean, yeah, Poe would
Yes.
on his own could be a good idea.
For the love
but-
of God, it's the simplest idea. It's the most obvious idea.
That'd be a good
Do Falcon and Winter Soldier with Finn and Poe. Can you imagine that? That'd be so cool. And yes, I don't want to keep harping on this, but just make them gay. Come on.
Make them gay.
It's,
it.
come on.
Do
It's, you have the chance to do.
I love it as well. Like the Chinese cut edition of it is just 2 minutes.
Oh
the
my
scenes
God.
where none of them are in it. It's just like the bit where like Pulp Fiction on the airplane cut where they cut out all the negative bits. It's like,
Yes.
oh, that films is like a 30-minute film about people dancing and eating smoothies or whatever. Like if they cut out all the bits they don't like.
Yeah, this would be your chance to do a main-driven story about LGBTQ characters.
Not just in the background of one scene, or in fact, do we even have a major named character?
That's the only time that anything non-heterosexual has happened in Star Wars. And that tiny moment where two women kiss in the back of Rise of Skywalker's ending, which is such
Disney gets to do their favorite thing, which is the first ever Disney gay character, the seventh first ever Disney gay characters. They get to do that every time. It's the best.
It's just I don't know. It's because look, I'll talk about Marvel for a second again.
Yeah.
Both studios are Disney, so I'm not sure why Star Wars can't do it and Marvel can. There are some countries out in the world who, for instance, requested, doctored versions of Eternals because of the LGBTQ elements of that of that film.
Sorry, I
right? Because there are certain elements in regards to that stuff in that movie, right? And Kevin Feige and the Marvel execs just said, no, sorry, if you don't want to show those scenes, you don't get to show the movie at all. So
actually, it probably wouldn't even do it because China. Do you know about the film poster where they like shrunk Finn?
They shrunk Finn,
so they probably just wouldn't even want the show.
Well, too bad. Don't give it to them.
Political today.
You know what? Don't give it to them. Do what Marvel's done and be like, look, if you don't want to show this, if you don't want to show, you either get every part of the show or none of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
But yes, please give me like a buddy cop show.
Buddy cop.
Finn and Poe.
Buddy romance cop.
Yes.
Space cops. Space Star Wars romance cops.
Give me
hot gay robots. Hot
gay robots.
Hot gay space cops.
Yes, hot gay robots. Woo! Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm sold.
That's a whole new can of worms that's open.
This is in. We're in.
So, Michael, what are your thoughts on gay robots?
What? Yeah. All right. You turned my slip, my Freudian
your Freudian slip
into a discussion topic. No. But yeah, I think Poe is good, and I think he was definitely best in Force Awakens. Lots of interesting things he could go, but again, 100%. Most interesting thing would be to see more scenes with him and Poe. When we got sub scenes with like them in Rise of Skywalker, but like just by far and away the best parts of Force Awakens with them just having fun around.
That TIE fighter sequence is my favorite scene in Force Awakens.
I don't have a name. It's like what FN2187. What FN? What? No, I'm calling you Finn.
Finn, I'm going to call you Finn.
Go.
Good to meet you, Poe. Good to meet you too, Finn.
Exactly. Best part of the film.
And
more of that, please.
Their chemistry is effortless. I bring up Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's like Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie. Those people have effortless chemistry.
It's a good example.
It's just. I mean, it's the perfect idea. Do it. It's just.
You'd be insane not to.
Yeah.
You specifically, Kathleen Kennedy, who I know watches that podcast who's every week.
That person on YouTube watching it right now. Yeah. All this. That's your stupid fault.
Your name is probably Kevin.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Hey, Kevin, what's up? So do that. All right. Send tweet.
Yeah, we've had a hot take.
Yeah. Okay. So that's Finn. I mean, we could talk
the main ones.
We could talk a little bit more about Poe, but that's just what I'd want to see from Poe.
That's our opinion.
I'd either want to see that, or if you wanted to. I mean, I guess
Zori Bliss.
Do something with him and Zori Bliss.
I didn't really care much about their relationship.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you got that part about Poe being a spice runner.
Yeah, that was a weird bit.
Which doesn't
Because we've already got Poe's backstory in like
doesn't
books and
make
comics
sense
and
with him
stuff.
being part
New
of the New Republic Navy and all that.
Which that itself would be kind of interesting, but yeah, I don't really care for Poe's past though. I'm not the biggest fan of like prequels unless it's like kind of like a new.
I mean, if you did something where I don't kind of like, sorry, let's bring it back to Marvel again. What they're doing with Hawkeye right now, like he's living his own life, right? But there are things from his past that are coming back to bite him in the ass.
Yeah.
If you were doing something where maybe Poe is trying to establish whatever the government looks like post sequel trilogy,
New Republic,
and the new Republic. Well, you know what?
Republic.
Let's get into that for a minute. Let's talk about the political landscape post sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
But before we do, I just want to, if we were to sort of,
I thought you were about to thank our sponsors. Before I do that, I'm going to thank our sponsors for this week. Us. We're purely paying for this by ourselves.
Yeah. If you were to have something like, Poe is trying to establish himself as a leader, what have you, whatever his life is like, and then something from his past in regards to the crime syndicates that he got involved in or something like that, maybe that kind of came back up to the surface and he has to, kind of go back to that life for a little bit to, put all that to rest before he moves on. Something like that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think anything that I want to see of Poe, I'd want to see with Finn. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if we're in our ranking, we've got Finn at the top, equally with Poe.
Yeah, it's like
Finn alone, then Poe alone, then Rey.
Yeah, it's like Finn and Poe together.
Yeah.
Then Finn, then Poe, then Rey.
Yeah, okay.
How about
Minor characters?
How about someone like Babu Frick? Let's see more about. Hey!
Yeah.
Let's see more of Babu Frick. Why not?
I guess the other characters you count could be Rose.
Though I wouldn't be opposed to
I like
seeing
Rose. I like her character when she was in the film.
There is not a chance on God's green earth that we are seeing Rose again.
No.
Only because of the fact that she's not very popular.
But also,
I wouldn't be opposed to seeing her again, and Kelly Marie Tran is fantastic.
like,
but
she'd be a good side character in the show that we were proposing. That is
so many people,
set on.
so many people hate her character that you would just never see more of her. Again,
Disney's cowards, they wouldn't do it.
Again, let's bring it back to the Falcon and Winter Soldier comparison with Finn and Poe. If you had Rose in like a Sharon Carter type role, if she shows up here and there to help them with whatever they're doing,
Stuff like that.
let's do that. Why not?
Okay. Anyone else? Hux is dead.
Hux is dead. Janna. How about Janna? And because there's that moment in towards the end of Rise of
Is she the one in
Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah.
I completely forget about her character.
Well, because that's the thing is there's that moment in Rise of Skywalker with Lando when he says, well, let's find out where you're from and stuff like that. And then it was kind of like half confirmed that she's his daughter.
Oh, that's stupid. Oh, was that one of those like a week after the film came out and be like, fun fact, Lucasfilm confirmed this theory that everyone thought like, oh, that could be the case. And they're like, yes, love our film again.
It's like a
asterisk. Oh, is it a J.K. Rowling?
It's like a J.K. Rowling, by the way.
It's a J.K. Rowling, by the way. That's what it's called.
That's literally its official name.
Yeah,
it's the J.K. Rowling, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that's the one.
And that J.K. Rowling, by the way,
idea.
was no, I wasn't opposed to the idea. I mean, I'm sure Lando has dozens of illegitimate children across the galaxy.
Lando has got so many kids. So many half droid, half alien, half human kids.
Yeah. You know what? I guess let's see more of that. Sure, I love Lando, and we got to see absolutely nothing of Janna. So
the Lando show. Maybe she'll show up in the Lando show. That's not happening.
Maybe. Maybe. Sure.
That's interesting.
Why the hell not?
I think that's actually, even if it's not necessarily at the top of my list of what I would want, that's probably most likely. I feel like she's probably the most likely to show up.
She probably has the most vivid avenue to come back, only because we have a Lando show announced. Again, I don't think it'll happen, but it's technically been announced, so we have to acknowledge its existence for now.
We have to begrudgingly acknowledge its existence.
No, it's okay. There's nothing begrudging about it. It's just, I just don't think it'll ever go anywhere. I don't enjoy having to say that, and I really hope I'm wrong.
The storylines will probably be tied into The Mandalorian.
That's probably true. So anyway, so that's Janna. We've talked about again, Zori Bliss. I'm not really interested in that. This is what happens when you introduce new characters in your last movie.
Yeah, exactly.
You Return of the Jedi didn't. The only people that the Return of the Jedi introduced newly were the Ewoks, and they're not like relevant as far as like character growth.
The only one? Surely there were Imperials that were in that film. No, actually,
I don't think so. I mean,
what's his name? The Admiral. He was in Empire.
Admiral Piet. He's in Empire.
Was in
there are no new main characters in Return of the Jedi because
Mon Mothma.
Sure. Yeah.
Admiral Akbar.
Sure. Again. Sure. Crix Maydeen.
Crix Maydeen.
Yeah.
Nine Num. I could name off the top of my head.
I'm so sorry.
Main character. What do you mean he's not main character of my ass?
I was gonna. I mean, yeah. I was about to say I'd love to see more of Nine Num in.
Love to see more of Admiral Akbar. No, that's not the right one. We need a parade. We need a
No, not
end
laughter.
of Phantom Menace.
No. There it is.
We need a
I've got a soundbite labeler at
funeral.
home. I'm gonna bring it home. I'm gonna bring it here
do
next time.
That's
No, I was gonna say.
Akbar.
I was gonna see. Let's see more of Nine Num, but he died on Exegol.
He
so.
died as well. Because I was also
Yeah,
gonna
because
say,
there's that moment where the Tantive 4 get
Yeah.
zapped by the Palpatine's lightning, and you see him,
they killed a bunch,
and you
of
kind
them
of see
in
him
there.
die, which is just a sad
Did
thing.
they kill Dennis Lawson as well?
No,
Did they kill the actor? No, did they kill Wedge Antilles?
No, Wedge lives. You see him later in
Because they killed Greg Grunberg's character, didn't they?
Yeah, they killed Snap Wexley.
Snatch Wexley. Ugh, he would have been fun to come back.
He would- like,
he was
if-
hardly in the sequel. He showed up a little bit in Force
Well, that's
Awakens.
because Greg Grunberg is
He's
a
J.J.
close friend of
Abrams'
JJ.
friend, yeah.
So he was in Force Awakens.
Yeah.
He's nowhere to be found in Last Jedi
No,
because
just
he's not
just
friends with Ryan.
Disappears, yeah, exactly.
And then he just comes back in Rise of Skywalker.
They got a
I
little-
think there was
yeah.
some another J.K. Rowling, by the way,
Yeah.
where he was like, oh, he was on a secret spy mission during during the
there
events
was
of The
one
Last
those. There
Jedi.
wasn't J.K. Rowling, by the way.
Which is stupid because the start of The Last Jedi takes place right after Force Awakens.
So when they all-
Snap Wexley would have very easily been with them.
When they all flew back from Starkiller Base, be like, yeah, well done mission, guys. So Snap Wexley's be like, all right, I'm gonna head out.
Gotta go, guys.
I'm gonna get out of here.
It's like in that first shot of the The Last Jedi when you see them all going to you just see one tiny X-wing off in the corner just going the other way. Bye, guys.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that one Y-wing that shows up at the end of A New Hope. Just be like, I was here too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so obviously we're not going to see more of him. So
Most of the minor characters are either dead or like not really significant or
I just don't care to see again.
yeah. So I think that's most of everyone. You know,
I think so.
if we're missing anyone, tell us in the comments how wrong we were to not include X character and how important they are to the future of the Star Wars universe.
Well, I mean, no, Phasma's dead, Hux is dead. Allegiant General Pride is dead.
Damn it! I'm trying to make a joke, but I can't remember his name.
Okay, while Michael finishes that train of thought,
Scar. Everyone thought he was Plagueis.
Snoke.
Snoke. Yeah, let's see more Snoke. We need.
Let's see all the
Okay,
the pickled clones
I
of
want
Snoke in those tubes.
I want a sitcom about a bunch of Snokes living in a house together, all these clones that all just be like, today I'm going to take over the galaxy. Like, no, you can't do it because I'm doing it today. Just a bunch of Snokes all arguing, slightly getting more and more
kinda reminds me
Australian
of-
as the show goes on and I lose my accent.
Have you ever seen the end credit scene of Finding Nemo?
Yes.
Where they're all in the bags in the river and they're just like, so now what?
Actually, I prefer your idea better. It's just like a 30-minute comedy about a
them
bunch
just-
of Snokes in bacta tanks all being like, yo, we're stuck here.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you...
That's Jerry Snoke.
Yeah, you're going out...
That's Bob Snoke.
You guys going out on a date last week? Yeah, it was good. We had a fun time. Yeah.
My apprentice stabbed me through the stomach,
Yeah,
but
that's okay.
that was kind of a bummer.
Yeah, just a bunch of Snokes talking each other through their back to tanks.
Yeah.
You've changed my mind. That's what I want. That's we got.
Why the hell
we have
not?
Snoke show, then Finn Poe. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you call it that, Finpo?
Finn. I'd call it Foe.
I'd call it Storm Pilot because that was their ship name.
You've actually thought about this. I was just
using their
I was
ship
going to
name.
make a joke about the Korean dish pho, but that's all right. You know.
Well, wait. Sorry. Say what was your title again?
Pho.
Oh, right. Yeah, like
pho.
like pho.
the dish.
Yeah, the Vietnamese.
That was going to be a
soup.
joke.
Yeah.
That's right.
Why not?
Yours is better.
No, but
I'm going to do
absolutely.
this to myself.
There you go.
Whoops, that was the wrong one. That was too good.
What are you looking for?
Not that one.
These sound bites need to be labeled. But we promise next week they'll be labeled.
Next week they're going to be all customized and perfect.
Yeah. Some of them are relevant. Some of them are just like what is this? What is that? Like, is that supposed to be like an X-Files kind of like Twilight Zone scary
Yeah,
thing?
bleeding. That's what it is. Ow, it's loud.
Yeah.
Well, I think that ties that discussion all together.
kinda
in a
does.
nice, neat bow with us accidentally pressing the wrong button. You know?
Well, let's talk about. I mean, just going back to the overall.
Yeah.
What something like this could mean. I do appreciate that they are taking characters from the sequel trilogy and actually acknowledging that they have that there are stories that could be told with them. Because if they were, because I'm sure they'd be looking back on the sequel trilogy and noticing their shortcomings. But I am glad that they are being kind of still, maturely creative about what they set forth, and that there are good parts of it, and those good parts could be explored, because that's just a mature way to go about storytelling. So that's a good thing. And it would give people like Finn and Poe, like we said, time to shine when they didn't get it in the movies. Let's go back to Marvel. They're doing the shows the best than any of these franchises have been doing.
Able to
when you get characters, when you get characters like Hawkeye and Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes and stuff like that, who have always been in the background, they haven't really had a lot of time to be developed in their own way. They've got shows now, and we know so much more about them. Sam Wilson as a character has been so heavily explored. There's so much to know and love about his family dynamic and how he grew up.
Character.
He's quickly become one of my favorites in the MCU, purely based on what that show did. I imagine that if you were to do a buddy cop show with Finn and Poe, they would skyrocket to being one of my two of my favorite characters in Star Wars. And look, just any time John Boyega and Oscar Isaac are on screen together, their chemistry just bounces off the screen. Even when they're in a bad movie like Rise of Skywalker, they're probably the best part of it.
That's true. Yeah,
like there's that moment where I do actually love that moment in Rise of Skywalker where he goes, "Hey, I want you in command with me," and he's like, "That's great, but this droid." Oh, thank you. By the way, General. It's
that
like
was good.
It does feel kind of. It feels. I'm not sure if it was written this way. It does kind of feel improvised. When they kind of like ad-lib
Even
off.
if it isn't, it does feel like
they kind of ad-lib off one another.
A whole natural thing with them.
Exactly. It never really feels forced with them, which is saying a lot because a lot of the dialogue in Rise of Skywalker does feel forced. But whenever they're speaking together, a lot of the time when they're speaking to another person, it doesn't feel natural. But somehow when Oscar and John get on the screen together, they just merge.
The chemistry oozes.
It does.
On the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have anything to say about that topic? Because we're mostly done.
I think we're very neatly tied up with the direction we think it could go. Again, not the happiest with the overall direction, but not opposed to it returning in a form that could be interesting and it moving onward from what it was. Like kind of we've moved on from that stage. It's been moving on in TV. Like it's going to happen at some point. Star Wars is not just going to end at the end of Rise of Skywalker and be like, nothing is ever set after this again. Like, that's not going to happen. And if that does happen...
Oh, yes. Well, I meant to talk about... Let's talk about, for a minute before we wrap up, let's talk about, what we could imagine the, political landscape looking like post-sequel trilogy, because I think it would be... not only would it be uncreative from a filmmaking standpoint, but it wouldn't make sense contextually for them to just reestablish the New Republic. Because, the Resistance, the official name of the Resistance is the Alliance to Restore the New Republic. But I would love to see, honestly, something that's kind of like, if you were to do like a political system that's kind of more similar to, the countries of the earth and stuff like that, is that each... like
as
each
to one global
system, for instance, right? Like the what's it called? The Anoat system, right? In Empire Strikes Back, the Anoat system has Hoth, it has Bespin, it has a couple of the other, it has that massive asteroid field that they go through.
Kind of more separated local politics.
If you were to imagine them being like so the Anoat sector has its own political body, and then there's somewhere like like
alliances and whatnot.
Exactly. So there's a bunch of different political landscapes like we have in the real world, and then there would be some kind of centralized meeting place or like centralized government that governs it all on like a semi-annual basis where they come together to kind of govern the galaxy.
I guess it depends, because the thing about the Resistance is it's
just less. I'm sorry to interrupt. It's a little less totalitarian than it has been in the past.
Right, yeah. I always feel like the Resistance felt like such small scale compared to even the Rebellion, but let alone the First Order or Empire. Like the Rebellion, was always the underdogs, but they had the support of the galaxy, and they were growing as they went and got more territory. The Resistance were always it felt like 30 people. And then later, when thousands of ships came up and everyone supported them, but it always did feel really small scale, and it always weird how the New Republic, how the First Order just kind of had massive amounts of support out of nowhere, and with the Emperor or stuff like that. There are issues, but
I would be opposed to seeing the gradual ascendancy from the Imperial remnants to the First Order.
Yeah,
that could be an interesting story.
But
I feel maybe we'll get some of that in later episodes of The Mandalorian.
But tying into what I was saying is, it just doesn't feel like the way when the Rebellion took over, and they were still fighting after Return of the Jedi, but after all, over eventually the Empire surrendered and they formed the New Republic and everything. That makes sense. After what we saw in Rise of Skywalker, the First Order was like basically in control of the galaxy, and then there was like a major fight where they were going to blow up every planet with the star killer, with the starship that had the planet killers or whatever in them. But then when all of the people showed up, they really relied on the people of the galaxy to help defeat the battle. I think your idea makes sense. I don't expect that if after the Resistance wins, beats the First Order, that suddenly like the Resistance, which is like 50 people and like 4 ships or whatever, be like, all right, we're in charge of the galaxy now. That wouldn't make any sense. It would make a lot more sense if, as you said, after all those people who helped fight in the Battle of Exegol, then formed their own governments or like their own things like that. That is an interesting idea.
I feel like it would make sense, and it
makes
would be
much more sense in the context of what we saw in Rise
in the
of
context
Skywalker.
of what would shown up. It would make sense that the galaxy would be more independently driven from then on. You know, there would be a little bit more freedom in different sections of the galaxy. You know, and to see someone like Poe step into, because he became the general of the Resistance. You know, if he would have become the hypothetically, Yavin is his homeworld, right? I'm not sure what sector or like system Yavin make. I guess it's the Yavin system, I suppose. But you know, if we got to see Poe become like a Director Krennic type character as you know the governor of the Yavin system or something like that, that'd be kind of cool.
Perhaps a Moff, is it?
And see someone like Cadel Connix, Carrie Fisher's daughter's character. You know, have her step into a Mon Mothma type role. You know, that'd be kind of awesome.
So like stuff like that is interesting directions it could go, but I think exploring that would be interesting. Not just in another 2 decades or 3 decades just being like, and it's the next era and whatever, like the governments that happened, boom, they got blown up and we're reset back to the Civil War again. Like stuff like that.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when they were talking about all those Investors Day shows, I was excited that we were going further back to like the Acolyte and stuff like that. I really hope that show pans out. Please, God, don't let it go the way of Rangers of the New Republic. But I was kind of bummed that we didn't get to see any shows that may focus on post-sequel trilogy.
Yeah, I feel like the focus with like the latest
they
stuff,
really don't want to go
past. Once they announced they were doing that, they pretty much never had anything set after what was in the future plan. So nothing, when Force Awakens was happening, they were starting to do a little bit of things pre-Force Awakens, but like nothing was set after it. Same with Last Jedi and same with Rise of Skywalker. Once we're a little bit past that, maybe we'll start to experience more with it. But because Lucasfilm always really had the idea of anything that's covered in the main films or the main story in that era, just avoid it, don't talk about it, don't build up to it in any of the supplementary material. Only things which are barely touched that you can they kind of expanded upon in like TV shows and whatnot. So hopefully we'll get to see more post that as we go along in the Lucasfilm.
Post Return of the Jedi and pre Force Awakens seems to be their like
that's what they're currently.
That's the part that they're really obsessed with
right
and
now.
I don't have a problem with that because there's 30 years of material
probably
there.
The least explored section aside from like ancient Star Wars up until this point.
It's the 19 years between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. And
that was probably where it was.
And those 30 years, those are the two like gaps.
Oh, I feel like the last 5 years, the 19 years between those two was probably the most explored section. Like they almost
with Rebels.
There was a part Rebels. There was Bad
Solo
Batch
takes place in that
Solo
year.
was in that. There were I feel like
Jedi Fallen Order.
For a while, that was like when they pretty much said everything, and that's personally my favorite era of Star Wars. But I think now they are starting to focus a lot more on those 30 years. That's currently the focus, especially like to the 5 years or so directly after Return of the Jedi.
Okay, guys. Well, that is the discussion, and that's the show. So I think we've been going for a little bit over an hour now. So I think that's a
fun time.
That's a good time to bring the show to a conclusion. I really hope you guys enjoyed the show today. I know I did. That was some great discussion. I really hope that we get to see some of that stuff pan out one day. You know, if you put it in the right hands, I will be. Definitely. First in line.
We are, as you said, that's a good way of saying it. First in line to see more Star Wars content. We run a podcast on Star Wars, so clearly we're pretty into this franchise. So
honestly,
it
doesn't matter what it is. I will see anything with Star Wars names on it. We all will.
We watched the holiday special. We clearly like Star Wars enough to endure torture.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, guys, that's absolutely the case, Michael. I agree with that. And I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. There's some interesting discussion. We're getting excited. Book of Boba Fett is nearly here.
Oh, it's getting close now.
Yeah, it's the 29th of December. Today is the 5th.
So like 4 weeks.
Yeah,
Bit of a 4 weeks.
Less than a month. Yeah. And another exciting thing is that I think that towards the end of this year, as part of like a Christmas thing, I think we might do another trivia competition. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do that. I'm gonna have to rematch because you won last time.
Because I think we used the questions from the Schmodown people, and I believe they've just wrapped up doing another one, like their yearly massive one. So I think we'll be able to use their Star Wars questions to do our own to honor them.
We're gonna have to do trading this year because last year was hard.
Yeah,
last year was very tricky.
You know what? We were actually we were toying with the idea of contacting Alex Damon, weren't we?
Oh yeah. I don't know how that's going to go, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, but we definitely want to get some.
We do want to start collaborating more with other people again.
We want to get Trey back on. I would love to talk to Trey again because it's been a while since we talked to him.
Yeah, and other people we know and other Star Wars fanatics. So it's good to talk to fellow Star Wars fans out there. It's always good to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. So make sure to watch us on YouTube as well as downloading the audio version on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Radiocast, a bunch of other links that will all be provided in the description of the YouTube version, which I imagine you're watching now if you're watching the visual version. Time codes for the 3 discussions for today will be available in the description below, as well as the links to our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Follow us there. And I always draw blanks on the housekeeping.
As most of the things,
I think so, yeah.
If you pay attention to us every week, I'm not sure when this episode will go up, but,
Wednesday. So we said it was the 5th. Right now it's probably the 8th for you people, but...
in the future, maybe they've announced something big Star Wars related and we won't talk about it till next week.
Yeah. We're going to have a bunch of movie reviews up on the show, on the channel very soon. It's been a kind of a backlog as far as actually recording them, but we're going to get around to that. As well as I think we're going to do very shortly, we're going to do a video that ranks the currently released Spider-Man movie in conjunction with Spider-Man No Way Home's release, which is and also 11 days away, which I'm so excited about.
Also, at time of recording, the Across the Spider-Verse trailer just released as well, so I guess tying into that as well.
That's true. We could talk about that. So be sure to check out all those videos when they drop, guys, as well as staying tuned for the very next episode of the Telling the Odds podcast, which we, to this day, love bringing to you guys. Michael, anything else you want to say?
No, I mean, thanks for always checking us out. It's always good fun to do this every week, and frankly, I had a lot of fun this week. It's been better than ever, and hopefully you'll check us out in the future because you enjoyed it just as much as we do.
Check it out, guys. Hope you enjoyed. This has been Telling the Odds.